Egypt's ruling military council held a press conference May 3rd in Cairo, where it tried to reassure the country that the military will hand over power to a civilian administration this summer as promised, and that it would not try to rig the upcoming presidential election. While leaving the question of the constitution aside for now, the military is maneuvering among election candidates in trying to produce a non-Islamist president, while reminding the opposition of the consequences of pushing things too far. The reassurances from the military came a day after deadly clashes occurred between protesters and armed thugs outside the defense ministry. In response to those clashes, the Muslim Brotherhood has called for a million-man march for May 4th to protest the violence and to apply pressure on the military to keep to their promise to transfer power. This has by now become an all-too-familiar pattern. A frustrated opposition will start pushing the line with the military, deadly clashes will break out between protesters and pro-military assailants, then the military is suspected of deliberately delaying a response to the violence, protests are carried out against the violence, and then the military swoops back in to give reassurances that the political transition is on track. We saw this in the October Maspira riots last year, the soccer riots in January, and now the Defense Ministry riots this week. In each case, the military has signaled to the opposition that if they don't play by its rules, the situation can derail rapidly, and that such violent circumstances could justify a potential suspension of the political process. Remember that there are two important political processes that are supposed to take place by the end of June to formalize Egypt's political transition from Mubarak rule to military rule to civilian rule. The first is the presidential election slated for May 23rd and 24th. The military has been maneuvering to undermine the Islamist strength in the presidential vote with a basic divide-and-conquer strategy. The military cleared the way for popular Muslim Brotherhood leader Khairat al-Shatar to run for president, but then the military-backed judiciary promptly disqualified him, along with Mubarak legacy candidate and former intelligence minister Umar Suleiman to balance out the ballot. The Muslim Brotherhood then put up its next candidate, the uncharismatic and unpopular Mohamed Morsi, whose polling numbers have been unimpressive to date. At the same time, we see a popular Islamist candidate who earlier defected from the Brotherhood, Abdel Fattah, who has been steadily rising in the polls and has even been endorsed by the country's main Salafist political bloc. In other words, the Islamist political camp is becoming more and more divided, which plays into the military strategy of undermining the Islamist vote. Leading the secularist camp is veteran diplomat Amr Moussa. Amr Moussa is increasingly looking like the consensus candidate to beat. In fact, many of the nearby Arab states in the Gulf are already supporting and dealing with Moussa as if he were already the new civilian leader of Egypt. There are too many unknowns in this race to say with any certainty that the military will get its wish of a non-Islamist president to balance against the already significant Islamist presence in parliament. After all, the Islamist vote may be divided now, but if the vote goes to a runoff between a secular and an Islamist candidate, those divide-and-conquer tactics will be much more difficult to pursue. The military would likely prefer to have the election won by Moussa the first try, which may explain why it earlier this week said it would transfer power May 24th if a president is elected in the first run. But the second and more critical political process that is supposed to take place by the end of June has been put on the back burner. The drafting of the Constitution will determine, among many things, just how much authority the president will have in the new political system. The military will want to see what kind of result it can get out of the presidential vote before it allows the constitutional process to move forward.